Hello, my friend. This is Pastor Greg, and you're watching Transforming the World. Today, I had to pick up my granddaughter from school. She came off the bus, came running up to me. She's like, Pappy, 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 you wouldn't believe it. There was a kidnapping in school today. I'm like, what? Really? I didn't hear about it in the news. She goes, oh, it's okay. He woke up. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of my little girl. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Oh, my, oh, my. That has absolutely nothing to do with the topic for this week. Today's topic is flexibility. I suppose, I suppose you could work flexibility into there somewhere. That we need to be flexible and understand that um, there are bad jokes out there, and the legacy needs to continue. And thankfully, my granddaughter apparently will be carrying it on. She just cracked up. Um, yeah, so we're talking about the topic of flexibility today. Um, Flexibility from a spiritual perspective, not the physical one. Not the ability you know, to put yourself into a pretzel yoga position and all that kind of funky stuff. No, flexibility from a spiritual position that says, as the Lord directs and as the Lord leads and as the Lord guides, there we will follow, we will be molded, we will be shaped. We will allow the Lord to craft us into somebody that we weren't when we first met him. Really neat story about the Apostle Paul and his willingness to be flexible. We'll talk about that on Transforming the World in just a moment. I'm Pastor Greg, and I'll be right back. So, where was I at? The Apostle Paul. Yes, the Apostle Paul. Um, the Apostle Paul, what a neat guy he was. One of the guys that I think we would all love to chit chat with once we get to glory, once we get to heaven. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 23, Paul kind of makes a statement about, if it were his choice, he would already be gone to be with the Lord. It's like his desire. I mean, don't take this wrong. It's not a morbid desire, but his point is, if I die, I get to be with the Lord. I mean, how great is that? But if I'm alive, I get to be here with you, and that's also a great thing. So the Apostle Paul's kind of talking about his future is in the Lord's hands, which honestly, that's true for all of us. Our future, for the most part, is in the Lord's hands. Now, I know, I get it. We can do dumb stuff that might rush things along a little bit. I mean, you certainly don't drive 95 or 105 miles an hour on the interstate like other people do, and expect to get through unscathed, because eventually it's going to catch up to you. But the flexibility of the Apostle Paul, this part I think is really cool, because in the book of Acts, you get to Acts chapter 16, in the second missionary journey. Paul had this desire to go on up into Asia. But there, in verses 6 through 10, Luke, who was the author, who was the writer of the book of Acts, indicated that the Spirit kept them from going there. So instead, they took a detour and eventually ended up in the town of Philippi, which then that's the letter Philippians. Paul writes a letter to that church later on. But one of the events that unfolds there is there's a jailer and his entire family that come to the Lord because Paul and Silas were there in prison. Really fascinating that Paul has his agenda, but God had something else in mind, and instead of Paul getting his way, he surrendered to God's way. Um, Something for you to keep in mind. I know it can be quite difficult for us to put our plans on hold and follow God's plans. I get it. Because we imagine the outcome already ahead of time of our plans, what it would look like. But God comes along and says, I've got something else in mind, and we have no idea the outcome. We can't imagine what the outcome would be. So maybe that's why we hesitate a little bit to follow the Lord's leading in our life. But here's the deal. That usually when we are following God's plans, miraculous things happen. Things that we couldn't even imagine would take place. I mean, who could have possibly imagined that in the midst of that prison, there would be an earthquake and all the shackles would fall off for Paul and all the prisoners there, and all the doors would be open in that prison in Philippi. I mean, who can imagine God doing something like that? And yet that's what happened. And so this flexibility that you see in the Apostle Paul, as I said, it should become the flexibility you see in us. And we need to stop thinking small. Because when God says, I've got something that I need for you to do, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be something amazing. And if we just have that mindset, if we have that mindset, I think it'll be a whole lot easier for us to surrender and be willing to do as the Lord leads and the Lord directs. So, again, my 2 cents on spiritual flexibility, not physical flexibility. Dr. Mike's still trying to do his work with me, and but for that matter, so is God. And I pray God's doing the same thing with you. So my name is Pastor Greg. You've been watching Transforming the World. I'll talk to you tomorrow about the topic of flexibility.